Oh, hi guys. Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Amanda Show. I have been away for a while because there were some things that I had to deal with, but I'm back now, and no better thing to start with than with the just concluded Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit that just took place in China this week. Well, that's just what I'm going to be talking about today. I want to look at it in what that summit symbolizes as we are talking about the multipolar world, right? So, what does that summit symbolize? How is it changing global affairs? How is it changing geopolitics? And how is it going to change, or should I use the word, how is it going to amplify the voices of the global south? I would discuss that. Then I would also, because usually when we talk about the multipolar world and we say the world is changing, the spheres of influence, or should I say the spheres of power, global power is shifting drastically in favor of the global south. When we tend to say that, we usually often we contrast it with the West. In the past 500 years, the world we live in has been dominated by the West. So we contrast that with the West. So we say, okay, this is the way China behaves. This is where the West behave, and people are beginning to see like as if it's China versus the West, right? But what I want to talk about today, after discussing the SCO summit that just took place in China, I also want to say, okay, why does it seem like the global south is sick of the West? Why does it look like some people in the global south are always calling out the West for their practices? Because some things have happened recently, and these things that have happened recently are, should I say, are indicators about the world, the way the world is changing, and why the world is tired of the West. So please leave your comments. I haven't done this in a very long time. So please leave your comments in the use the chat to let me know your questions that I can take. And I'll try to be here for about maybe 15-30 minutes. Let's see what we can cover. Okay, that was a very long introduction. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Amanda Akalano, and on the Amanda Show, we discuss geopolitics from an African perspective, and we also highlight the changes in the world, this so-called multipolar world that we've been talking about for a very long time. We highlight that, and today we are talking about the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and the event that just took place this week. So first of all, I have my notes here. I want to quickly pull it up. Um, Okay, the first thing I want to say is one thing that I that struck to me, that stuck out to me in this event is that China is a superpower. If for any reason, for the past God knows how many years, we have been living in some kind of delusional land, thinking that we only have one big dog around, and that is the United States. What we just saw at the SEO and also the military parade, the World War II victory, China celebrated their victory against Japan. What we just saw at these events is that China is a superpower. I saw, first of all, the number of heads of states, presidents, prime ministers that flew to China for the SEO summits, and the way they were flocking around Xi Jinping, and the kind of confidence that Xi Jinping was oozing. You know that this China is on the global stage. That's what this thing is, right? And for many people, it's first of all, this is not just new, right? In say the past 500 years of Western dominance. This is also what now we're asking ourselves the question: what will a Chinese world order look like? So yes, guys, China is a superpower, and that military parade shows you that China is not just an economic superpower. Because whenever we say China is a superpower, we tend to look at it like in the area of money, because China has a lot of money in the area of economy. But now, with this military, the kind of military tech, the drones, the missiles, the tanks, even the way that the soldiers were marching, it looked like AI. It looked like it was, oh my god. Oh my god. It was it was unbelievable, right? So that's please hold on, let me attend to something. Just give me a minute, let me quickly attend to something. So sorry about that. My neighbors are making noise, but I have to quickly get this done. Okay. Yes. What was I talking about? Yes. So I was talking about the military parade. It was amazing. And after that, some other important things that came out were the deals that were signed at the SCO summit. The biggest one that everybody's talking about that I also want to highlight is the um, agreement between Russia and China. Now, Russia, for a very long time, China has been getting its energy from the United States, right? Slash the Gulf states. But and then Russia has been selling its energy to Europe. But with the coming together of Russia and China with I think it's called the Power of Siberia 2. Let me quickly verify the name of that pipeline they are building. Let me be sure of Siberia 2. Yes. It's called the Power of Siberia 2. So anyway, with the Power of Siberia 2, this pipeline, what is going to happen is now Russia and China are coming together. So China is no longer going to be getting its over the next years, it's going to drastically reduce its energy imports from the United States and other places, maybe like the Gulf states, and it's going to be heavily reliant on Russia. And Russia, after all, Europe has already sanctioned Russia and Russia's energy, even if they're still buying it from India. The hypocrisy. But anyway, now Russia is no longer going to be looking at Europe for its for selling its energy. Russia now is going to be focused on China. That means that effectively means Russia and China are coming together to be each other's partners. Now, when this happens, it simply means that United States, Europe, after sanctioning Russia, the only place Europe can look, I don't think America is even going to let Europe buy energy from anywhere else but it. So that means Europe is going to be more dependent on the United States for its energy needs. And as we speak, one of the things that um, political analysts have been discussing since Europe sanctioned Russia is that American American energy is cost a lot more than the energy they've been getting from Russia. That means that we are watching the framing, like this is the skeletal structure of the new world order happening right in front of us. And it's very, sometimes you wonder, okay, what was it like living in, say, somewhere before World War One, right? What was it like living in that era when the Ottoman Empire was about to become nothing, just after World War One? Or sometimes you think, what was it like living in just post World War Two when the all the European colonial powers were effectively taken out of the global player scene and America became the big dog. What would it have been like? Well, we're watching the makings of another world order right in front of us right now. And in this world order, it is not just American unipolarity, where America is the boss and can throw its weight all over the place. Right now, it is a multipolar world, meaning that like there are spheres of influence, and you can't just come to my turf to tell me what to do and to tell me how to act, right? What we are witnessing is the framings of a new world order where there are multiple poles. So it's just not one boss who is going to throw its weight all over the place. We are now having many poles of power where everyone is looking out for their interests. And I think it's very interesting. So that's what the one of the things that the power of Siberia to the pipeline. It's part of this structure of the new global order. Now, I also want to talk about. Um, I also want to talk about one of the things that struck out to me at this SEO summit. For me, I would say that for the first time since following politics for a few years, for the first time, it has dawned. I feel like it has dawned on the global power centers that we're actually in a multipolar world. And when I mean global power centers, I mean United States. Before now, it's like all of these things were happening, but the West wasn't looking this direction. They were like, oh, well, we are still the boss of the world and we can still act as we want to act. So everyone deal with it. And sometimes you look through the media, Western media, and you see the way they would tell a story or they will give a news, right? For example, with the BRICS now, many times they don't even mention that okay, so and so thing is happening. That there's something called the BRICS. They just say, oh, Russia is bringing up people that hate the United States, something like that. But right now, with this Shanghai, this SCO summit, it has it just dawned on me that everyone understands what has happened. This was like that breaking point where they say, no, stop, let's not be delusional. China is a world power. And China, that is a world power, is friends with Russia, that is an impressive power. And India, because that's a very interesting thing. That's a very interesting thing. The very interesting thing for me is how America screwed this thing up. America screwed this thing up. Under the Biden administration, they so antagonized Russia and pushed Russia into the arms of the Chinese. And when that thing was going on, Trump, and correctly so, Trump kept saying, oh, this is wrong. We're supposed to be working with Russia against China. Why are we doing all of this? Why are we antagonizing Russia and pushing Russia into the arms of China? Everyone was like, Trump is making sense. Biden is making a very disastrous decision. Well, right now, we just saw that Trump, with his tariffs, first of all, even before the tariffs, when I noticed that things were getting, the friction was building up when India and Pakistan had that fallout, that um, crisis that they had some months ago, when Trump was now saying that he brought peace because he said if they want to trade with America, they have to have peace. And India didn't like that. Several times India kept coming out to say, no, Trump didn't bring peace between India and Pakistan. We sat down with the Pakistanis and we decided to fix things. But Trump kept saying that. So that clearly showed that the Indians weren't happy. Then Trump decided to give secondary sanctions, should I say secondary tariffs on India because India is buying Russian oil. Meanwhile, the Indians said that initially when they had started sanctioning, the West was sanctioning Russia. The Biden administration told India that India can continue purchasing Russian oil so that they can stabilize the energy markets. Because if they didn't, because of local demand, they didn't want the prices of oil to just go out of hand. So they used India to stabilize the energy market, right? So India is not like you, it was the Americans that told us that we should keep buying oil from Russia. Now we are buying oil from Russia. Why is America coming back again to sanction us? Because although they say it's tariffs, but it's as good as sanctions. Because with Trump, his tariff policy and his sanctions policy is the same thing. So the Indians haven't been happy. And we just saw that Trump, with his policies, has pushed India into the arms of China the same way Biden pushed Russia into the arms of China. So right now, China has China, that is itself. It also has Russia in its corner. In fact, that relationship is sealed, right? It also has Russia in its corner. And now India is beginning to get to warm up to China. And you're like, how can the Americans make such how can the Americans do such a thing? How can they do such a thing? You just blown up your like what kind of foreign policy is that? I'm not a foreign policy expert though, but even me, from where I am looking at things, I know this doesn't make any sense. So anyway, Modi, that's the Prime Minister of India, was in China for the SCO summit, and we saw his friend, well, his closeness, the warm conversations he had with Xi Jinping, and even with Putin. So if this thing keeps going the way it looks like it's going, we are talking about economic power of China. China also showed us that it has military power anyway. At this their parade they just did. We're talking about the military might of Russia. We're talking about the resources of Russia. We're talking about the population of China, the population of India. We're also talking about the service economy of India. I like why would the West do such a thing to itself? Why would Trump like you just this is someone said that Trump is looking really, really looking for the Nobel Peace Prize, that he has made India and China friends, that if not for anything, he should get the Nobel Peace Prize for this. Well, it's very interesting. Interesting that you're watching the world change right in front of us. And I keep saying this, particularly for we in Africa, that now ever this is the first time, to me, in my opinion, this is the first time in 500 years that Africa can really carve out a place for itself in the world. Africa can so assert its position and its interests. Because now the world, what we are seeing today is really everyone do what you can, right? Everyone scramble and create a world that will favor you. So this is the best opportunity we have had. Because if you look past, well, okay, let's say let's excuse some of the mistakes we made before colonization or during colonization. But then the colonization came with the Europeans, and we were effectively taken from the European power and handed over to the American empire. I mean the global order. I'm not talking about like America colonizing Africa. No, I mean the global order. We're taken from that straight in. There was no breathing space because, if in fact, America had already taken over before some African countries even began to gain their independence. So this is the first time where we're not really sure what is going to come into place for a global order. But what we know is that something is being structured. So now is the best time for Africa to begin to think, what is our interests? One of the first things that we scream that is in Africa's interest is that no more exporting raw materials, no more exporting raw resources. We have to have add value. Value addition has to take place on the continent. But this is the best time we can do that. This is the best time we can do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now we still realize that we have issues with not really issues, but the certain economic systems are still in place. But that's why I said that this is really the skeletal structure. We are just building the structure. So this is the perfect opportunity for we in Africa to say, all right, a structure for Africa's economy where Africa we are doing value addition to our resources on the continent in the country where these things are taken out from. Now is the best time to put that structure. Now, although with several recent meetings between African leaders, I've heard a lot of African leaders come up for this. Even one of the most recent one is the former foreign minister of South Africa, that's Naledi Pandor. She also said it very recently, a few weeks ago. So we are thinking in the right direction. But now it's not just about thinking in the right direction. We have to put these policies in place. We have to put these policies in place if we really want to build an African pole in the multipolar world, which for me is the biggest dream, which for me is what I want to achieve. So please, as we're talking, as I'm just giving you my opinion of the SEO summit, feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below so that we can go back and forth. And if you have any questions, though, let me know in the comment section. So another thing I want to mention from that, no, I said that right now it's dawning on everybody that we're in a multipolar world. Even Washington knows that we're in a multipolar world. Trump said it himself. Trump said he was, in fact, what I thought was interesting, he said he knew that they had that parade show so that America would see it. I'm paraphrasing. And America would think they want America to say, oh, China wants America to say, yes, we are the boss. China is on the global stage now, right? And Trump said, okay, they did it, so they wanted us to watch. Yes, I was watching. That was very, 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 very interesting. It made me laugh. Well, a lot of people have been saying this is another thing I think though. A lot of people have been saying that China did this to show the West that it's a boss, that you can't come here to move around. Could be. I'm not speaking with the leaders of China, so I don't know. But one of the things that what one thing something I was thinking of is I think it was more a show for the Chinese. They did it as a show for the people in China more than a show for outsiders, right? Let me tell you what I mean. I think this parade just took place in China was a statement to the Chinese that the century of humiliation will never happen again. Don't forget, China has this thing they call the century of humiliation. And what is the Chinese century of humiliation? The Chinese century of humiliation is the 100 years where China was dead poor and everybody took advantage of it, particularly, well, the British, Japan, and even the Americans, right? So this is what China calls their century of humiliation. That's why I feel like this parade that took place and we saw all the military technology that we saw in China, it was not so much a statement. I could be wrong, but I feel it wasn't so much a statement against for outsiders rather. It was a statement for the people in China for them to know that that century of humiliation will never happen again. And oh my God, I watched that and I was visualizing. Can we have that thing in Africa where we get so strong? We get it was really inspiring for me. We get so strong, we get so tough that we can put on such a show and the world will know, and even Africans, first of all, will know that our centuries, this time it's not just 100 years, it's been like 500 years, but our centuries of humiliation is behind us and it will never happen again. That's one of the things that stood out for me at this SEO summit. For me, it was like China came. Well, China has had a really glorious history. Let's be honest. China has been the world's longest running civilization for over 5,000 years, if I'm not mistaken. So so coming back to the global stage, this is not the China's first attempt at being on the global stage. This is just a reemergence for China, not like a debut, right? So, but for we in Africa, as I was watching that parade, as I was looking at what was going on in China, I was visualizing. We will get to that point. We can get to that point, and we should work to get to that point where such a sight, such an inspiring sight, a sight that gives so much pride, when such a sight can be regular in Africa. That's one thing that's another thing that stood out to me at the SEO summit. Yes, so now the question is, what will a China world order look like? Much later in October, much later in the year, probably October, November, I'm having a guest over and we're going to discuss when China rules the world. What would it be like? But for now, I can just give my assumptions. A lot of people have said that, okay, we are talking about the fall of the West and the world is no longer running by Western standards. Okay, but who says that China is not going to just continue the American way of life? It's very possible. That's why I'm saying if you've listened to this show for I've been doing this for 1 year. So if you listen to this show for as long as I've been doing this show, one thing that I have always said is let us not, while we are saying, okay, yes, the world order is changing and the multipolar world is coming on, let's not think that China is some knight in shining armor that is going to come around to change things for Africa. Let's use this opportunity to create an African pole in the multipolar world so that nobody, right, can push us around. Not the Americans, not the Russians, not the Chinese, not the Europeans, nobody. Because for now, though, if you look at, I was listening to a lecture, and the lecturer, when this talk came out, that all right, so America's reign has been militaristic. America has gone around bombing the whole world, causing chaos. Okay, okay, okay. Who says that when China comes on the scene, is not going to be the same thing? Maybe power corrupt. So China seems like it's calm now because China doesn't have absolute power. First of all, one thing I would say is when China rules the world, I don't know if that is the right phrase to use, but even if you go with that, it's still going to be a multipolar world. Because I don't think the Russians will want to lie down and have the Chinese kick them around. Do you get? So I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the Americans are going to lie down and have the Chinese kick them around. So it's going to be a multipolar world, meaning China is not going to be the only pole of power in the world, right? But even at that, the argument many of this I don't say pro-Chinese commentators, but one thing they say, why they say China is definitely going to be like, is not going to be like the United States, is because if you look through Chinese history, and I've even heard Jeffrey Sachs say this, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, I've heard him say this, that if you look at Chinese history, China hasn't really been fighting. China is not a militaristic society. Most of the time, it would just rather build a wall to protect itself from outsiders. If you look at Chinese art, you don't see many depictions of war, right? Compared to European art, where we had a lot of war, we have a lot of war. In Chinese art, we don't see that. So, if I'm going to assume what a world where China is a dominating force, not the only force, but a dominating force, if I'm going to assume what kind of a world that is going to be, then that world is going to be a world of, I know it's going to be a lot of trade because China, it seems like they just want to keep making their money, right? So it is in Africa's interest to find out how we can leverage this opportunity to sign up for trade deals that benefit us, not trade deals that continue this mode of exploitation where you just take the resources without care in the world whatsoever of the people or even of the environment, right? You just take the resources, export it. So it just comes out from the earth, goes to the seaport, and it's out. How can we now get signed on trade deals that sees exchange of technology, exchange of knowledge, where we learn and about the not the what's the word, value addition, right? So we are going to learn how can we add value to, say, our crude oil. What would that technology entail? How do we now create that technology here? Even with our food sufficiency, no more importing of food. Because I know many of these issues that are Africans suffer today is because we signed up to really terrible deals with the World Trade Organization, the IMF, and many of these Bretton Woods institutions. So now that we are creating a new world order, what would it be like? I saw a news some days ago, two actually, that both the United Kingdom and France are beginning to consider going to the IMF for help because they are in really bad shape economically. In my life, in all the years of following politics, I never thought such a thing was possible that the UK would be going to the IMF for help. I know that they said it was done in the 1970s, but I'm hearing that I read an article by someone who says that even the 1970s UK economic problem was nothing compared to what they are seeing right now in the UK. France, the same thing. France is going to the IMF for economic help. Do you get? So that shows you that indeed the global structures of power, all these things are changing. All these things that we thought that the IMF, people who ran to the IMF for money were developing nations, particularly African nations who can't get their ass together, right? But right now, the UK could go, France could go. America is sitting on 30, is it 35? Let me verify the figure. Let me verify the figure. How much is the US owing? Let me check. Okay, America is sitting at $37 trillion in debt. It's never going to pay that thing back. Now it's holding Japan that Japan must buy American debt, and China is dropping American debt all over the place. This world is changing. It's changing fast. It's changing so fast that if we don't, like I was speaking with someone recently, and I said, all of this chaos, it seems like the world, everything is all over the place, whether it's military conflict, whether it's economic hardship going on around the world. It's a global thing. This is because the framings of a new world order is taking place. And when such a thing is taking place, things are never smooth. Things are never smooth. So it is important for we in Africa to notice. It's a good thing that everyone has noticed what is going on, because I believe I saw some African leaders. I saw the is it the president of Zimbabwe, if I'm not mistaken, at the SCO summit. He was there. Do you get me? So, yes, everyone has realized what is going on. There is a new world order taking shape. China is at the forefront of it. Russia is also there. India is also there. Do you get? But as these things are going on, how are we going to take our place, right? We in Africa, how are we going to now assert ourselves in this situation so that we will not end up the way we have been for the past 600 years? Because it is very easy for this for we to end up in that position. But anyway, so yes, I said that I'm just going through my notes, right? So yeah, we're talking about the how what the Chinese world order would look like. So like I said, I don't think for me, but I could be wrong. I don't think China will be going around bombing the world like America has done for the past decades. I think that a Chinese-led world order or a Chinese dominant world order would be more economic, and I'm going to assume that it's economic that is beneficial to most. Sorry, my neighbors are making noise. So I would say it's economy that is beneficial to most players. Now, having said that, I said I was going to give you my opinion about the SEO summit. I just gave you that. Then the second part of this video is I want to talk about why it seems like the world is done with the West. You know, why does it seem like every time they talk about the multipolar world, some people are like, oh God, finally, we are tired of this Western-led world order. We are tired of this exploitative world order. So why is the world done with the West? I want to start by telling you something that happened this past week, and you must have seen it. So Trump has been posturing or has been giving threats to Venezuela. He says that Venezuela is engaged in bringing in drugs into the United States and they're having issues with it, blah, 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 blah. Okay, no problem. It's fine for him to be upset by at that. But then something happened and he posted a video of a small boat, not a ship, not a cargo cargo ship. It looked to me like a boat, like a canoe. And the Americans bombed it, right? 11 people were on board, and 11 people were just killed like that. And Trump said, the Americans said, oh, that they were smuggling drugs. Okay, the normal thing to do if you suspect that someone is smuggling drugs, are you not supposed to arrest the person? And then you try the person, which is what, from a long time we've heard Western civilization, Western civilization. So you expect that the civilized thing to do is to arrest the people who you suspect are smuggling drugs, get the evidence of the drugs they are smuggling from the boat you saw them in, and then you take them to court, right? Before the judge will now pass down the sentence. But no, the Americans thought that the best thing to do was to bomb them. So right now, we do not know whether or not they were really smuggling drugs, or maybe they were just fishermen. We don't know. We don't know. And this is a blatant disrespect. This is a blatant, what's the word? A blatant insult to international law. This is illegal, but they did it. Now you ask me why the world is done with the West. This is it. We're tired of this because you cannot tell me to act a certain way, right? And you don't act that way. The rule of law is everyone is subject to law. Nobody's above the law. We're also, if I'm supposed to live by a certain code, you are also supposed to live by that code. You can't say, oh, don't do so and so thing, right? But you get to do it. Why would you just kill people? And I recently saw, please, but I need to be sure, but I believe that I saw a report. I took this. Did I save that? I believe I saw a report. Yes, the intercept. I'm very correct. Let me see if I can pull it up and share the screen so that you can see it. But the intercept said that the boat strike was an attack on civilians. Let me find that. Intercept. Um, Trump boat strike criminal. I need to. Yes, 19 hours ago. I remember I saw that article. So let me show you. Let me share my screen so that you can see it. Can you see my screen? So this is the article from the Intercept. It says Pentagon official, Trump boat strike was a criminal attack on civilians. So bottom line is that this what Trump did, and Trump said they were drug people. Like we don't have evidence whether or not they were drug traffickers. We don't have evidence. But even if they were drug traffickers, we are not supposed to do that. Why is the world done with the West? This is one example. America has spent the last since the war on terror, right? Going around the world and bomb from Sudan, they've bombed Somalia, they've bombed Libya, they bombed Iraq, they bombed Afghanistan, bombed Syria, everywhere. America had an issue with Russia for invading Ukraine and taking some parts of Ukraine. Is it 20% of Ukrainian land or something? I'm not saying whether or not that is right. But as Biden was scolding Putin on that, America was occupying 20% of Syria and taking the oil. What this war now, it seems like Trump wants to undertake, right, with Venezuela. That war is not because it's just because Maduro has not bent the knee. That's it. It's not like, oh, com- according to American sources, right? Colombia and Mexico are more responsible for the drugs coming into the United States than Venezuela. So if it's really about the drugs, it should start with Colombia or Mexico. But no, because it's about the oil. Because as Trump was having this issue with Maduro and saying they're going to invade Venezuela. We're just saying that Chevron and some other of these their multinational oil companies are beginning to circle Venezuela. It's about the oil. So what am I saying? And this is why they are done with the world. Why can't you just the world is done with the West? Because if you want Venezuela's oil, come out and do deal normally. Do you get me? Come out and say, okay, we are signing this, we are signing this, we want to let's do business. Don't just blow up the whole country because the terms for what you want, do you get? Don't just blow up the whole country and steal their resources. It's what happened in Syria. It's what many African countries are seeing today. Because many of the chaos and many of the so-called terrorism going on across Africa, this is the reason. Zimbabwe decided to do something, they put sanctions on Zimbabwe, but they are still taking the gold. Do you understand me? Okay, other than this Ukraine, Russia, all right, another reason why you say the world is done with the West will be the biggest to say human rights. Human rights is important. And I agree. Every human life is important. Every human life is valuable. So human rights is something that the whole world should recognize and honor. So it's easy to say human rights, but when it comes to Gaza, everybody will look away. The same West will give Israel, Netanyahu, all the bombs he needs to destroy Gaza. Did you see the leaked documents that came out about the plan for what they want to turn Gaza into? Let me see if I can find that thing. Gaza state leaks. There was something. Yes, Gaza Rivera. I will share my screen with you so that you can see it. Oh, just give me a minute. Let me share this screen. It's crazy. They are all the one of the things they are doing, at least according to this leaked document that just came out. This is what they want to do to remove the people, the Palestinians from Gaza, and turn that place to they say it's Gaza Rivera with real estate in general, though with hotel, they will also have AI data centers. But with the blood of thousands of children, this is a document. You can come to the Guardian to look at it. Or apart from the Guardian, it's in a lot of other places though, right? So these people in these Palestinians in Gaza are being killed because some people want to do a real estate Rivera there. Why? This is the same human rights they keep screaming to us about. This is the same human rights. You see why the world is done with the West? You see why the world is done with the West? There was another story that I saw. Let me be sure. Let me be sure. Okay, why the world is done with the West? Russia Ukraine is having fight, right? And then the ICC release arrest warrant for Putin. Okay, that's fine. And then the arrest warrant they released for Putin, they released it because they said what was Putin's crime? That Putin removed children from a war zone, right? Like he removed children from so I think yes, I don't know whether or not they did. This I'm just reporting what I read. But okay. But Netanyahu leaves children in a war zone and brings down buildings on them, tens of thousands of children. Then the ICC realizes that it has to look like an unbiased court. So the ICC releases arrest warrant for Netanyahu. And they go after the ICC. They go after the ICC and the lead prosecutor. Is it Khan? Yeah. And you're like, we can't live in a world where the people who make the rules and the people who actually created this global order, which is the West, though, you pick and choose the laws that you abide by, the rules that you abide by. But every other person has to abide by the rules. It's the hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy. Netanyahu has arrest warrants on him. And because the ICC releases, I think he should be arrested because what we are seeing in Gaza is a crime against the existence of humanity. Western civilization died in Gaza. Western civilization, it's a civilized society. It died in that myth of Western civilization died in Gaza. Do you get me? Netanyahu can an arrest warrant can be issued for him, and we are watching the complete dismembering of the ICC because of the way the Americans are going hard against it. You say freedom of speech is important, it's necessary. Everyone has to have freedom of speech. And they get angry at dictators like Putin and Xi Jinping and others that do not want the media to be free. Okay, you're very right. But then you go against um what's this guy's name? I'm trying to remember his name. Oh, what's the name of this guy? I just remembered. Okay, let me. Julian Assange. You go against Julian Assange. Nearly make him lose his mind. That's why the world is done with the West. So what is going on now is not really, oh, the West is bad, we are going to get. No, no, that's not what is going on. What is going on now is the world is the global south, because the global south, uh, is a part of the world I feel like for very, very, very long time we've had the short end of the stick, right? Because if you look at the ICC, all the time, even Lindsey Graham said this in 2023. Yes, or 2023 or 2024, Lindsey Graham said it, that the ICC, the job of the ICC is to go against African leaders and then the thugs like Putin. If you look through the ICC's history, America, the West has used the ICC to go against African leaders that didn't want to bend the knee. That's what the ICC has been. That's why the world is done with, like the world is sick of this thing. So we are looking for a fairer and a more just global system, a global system that the rules, everybody will follow the rules. You're not bigger than it. A global system that doesn't thrive on exploitation. Do you get? That's what is going on. So it's not like, oh, we just want to get rid of the. No, no, we're not trying to get rid of the West. China, India, and all these things, they're not trying to get rid of the West. They're trying to create a new system that is beneficial. But what one thing I keep saying is, let us not just leave it to these people, because if China is creating a system, it's going to create a system that benefits China. If Russia is creating a system, it's going to create a system that benefits Russia. If India is creating a system, quite all right, India can say, okay, we want it to be more inclusive and benefit a lot of people. But primarily, India is going to look at it from an Indian perspective and how it's going to benefit India. So I'm saying that as the world is coming together, particularly nations of the global south are coming together to create a global system, let Africa realize that it is in our interest to put, especially our leaders, let us look into what's going on so that we can also carve out a path, a place for Africa in this new system that is, because by the time this whole thing takes shape, to change it now is going to be another long story. So we might as well do it now that everyone is putting in their hands and they're participating in the creation of a new global system. I saw okay, yeah. So I saw from Al Jazeera, we are still talking about why the world is done with the West, by the way. Let me pull that up. Let me pull that up. Western sanctions. Get it. So I'm searching for it. Al Jazeera. I think I saw that on Al Jazeera. Yes, 3 days ago. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Let me share my screen so that you can see it. This. US and EU sanctions have killed 38 million people since 1970. Far from a peaceful tool, these measures weaponize hunger and deprivation to enforce Western dominance. So if you read through it, right, they're highlighting what sanctions have done in the world since 38 million people have been killed by sanctions since the 1970 or since 1970. That is a genocide. Genocide by sanctions. But why, if like, if sanctions, right? Sometimes they say, oh, sanctions is really just a way to, well, forget what they say. Let's say the truth of what it is. Sanctions is a way to squeeze a country so that they can overthrow the people of the country, can be so hungry and can be so deprived, right? And be so pressed that they overthrow their government. And many times when the West puts sanctions on a country, it's because the leader of that country is not bending the knee. The leader of that country is still trying to maintain the sovereignty of its country, right? That's why these sanctions are put in place. But Al Jazeera just told us now that 38 million people have been killed by sanctions since 1970. This global order is brutal. That's why the world is done with it. This global order is brutal, it's exploitative, it's pillaging, it's disastrous. Yes, we can argue that we've not had any major war since World War II, and following World War II, when America became the like hegemon, right? We've not had, so we can argue the Pax American, okay, no problem. But we can also agree that in the same, we can also agree that it hasn't been peaceful. So this is why the nations of the world are looking for a different global order. And well, the SCO summit in China just showed that yes, the new world order, which is the multipolar world, is not a pipe dream anymore. Leaders and of powerful nations like Russia, China, India, and even well to a certain degree, maybe even Iran, even at the SCO summit, a NATO country, Turkey, Erdogan was there. Quite alright. Erdogan plays both sides. He plays both sides. But even Erdogan, a NATO guy, was there. So that's what I'm just trying to say is that's what I want to bring to your light. Understanding is all these things about multipolar world you have been hearing since it's not a pipe dream. The structure, the skeletal structure of that multipolar world is being put in place now. We are seeing it right in front of us. And I would love it for Africa to assert itself, use this opportunity because we're not going to get another one. We are not going to get another one. It's better now that the the iron is hot. It's better to strike when it's hot. Let me know what you think about the SEO summit and even this whole thing about the whole world is done with the West and the Western world order, and that's why more people in the global South and even some in the global North are looking to create a new world order. Let me know about all of this in the comment section below. As usual, don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. And also, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for joining me. And if you want to support the work that I'm doing, I'm going to leave my Buy Me a Coffee link. I will pin it after this live. I'll pin it in the comments. I'll pin it so you can support my work by using Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you for joining me today. Next week, Wednesday, I'm going to be having a guest on this show, and we are going to discuss what is going on in Sudan and the role of the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, in the destruction of Sudan. I'll have that guest over next week, and I would love you to join me as we delve into what is going on in Sudan, the chaos, the RSF, the history first. We are going to discuss the history of where we are now, that led to where we are now. We're also going to discuss the UAE's role, and we're also going to discuss maybe it's probably all about the gold in Sudan. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.